there are times in every YouTuber's life when they have that TikTok sound go through their head.
Am I the drama? I don't think I'm the drama. Maybe I am.
I think this was ill-advised.
On this channel, I generally try to approach topics thoughtfully, but sometimes you just have to take the mickey out of yourself. This is one of those times. Don't pretend you didn't know. You saw the title of the video. I'm going to try, rate, and review a number of historical and vintage methods of body hair removal, or the safest modern equivalent. These methods will be a pumice stone, sugar wax, resin wax, a safety razor, a chemical depilatory, the Epilady electric hair remover, and plucking with tweezers. If after this video you're still craving a more sensible, more academic approach to this topic, I have it on good authority that a fellow CosTuber will be tackling this subject in the spring. I'll make sure to send you that way when it comes out. In the meantime, I'll also recommend reading Plucked by Rebecca Herzig. And because it's me, and there cannot be no nuance, we're going to cover some basics in the style of American pharmaceutical commercials. Voluntary hair removal is a highly personal choice which is influenced by many factors including religion, aesthetics, region, economic status, health, and more. The reasons for it historically are not known or agreed upon. Centuries of poor academic and scientific theories are informed by sexism, classism, racism, xenophobia, transphobia, and religious dogma. I will not tolerate any abusive, judgmental, or even snarky language directed towards anyone's body modification choices. That includes stating your preference about anyone besides yourself. Consequences for this behavior may include deleting, blocking, and reporting, which can be applied with impunity. For each of these methods, I will rate the following categories on a scale of 1 to 5. Amount of leftover hair, danger, pain, fuss, cleanup.
You know those times in life when you're sectioning your leg with eyebrow pencil and thinking to yourself, how did I get here?
I removed leg hair from about the age of 15 until 29 or so. Nowadays, I average about once every 2 years. This is not an invitation to weigh in on that decision. This is all just to say that I have as much hair on my legs as I can grow. So let's get depilating. We'll start with the safety razor.
Honestly, my man boggles at the very idea. A grown man and you haven't shaved with a safety razor.
It's not my fault. I come from a long line of electricians.
Well, you're not practicing on me.
Safety razors were invented, as you can imagine, to be safer than the traditional straight razor method. It was exclusively marketed to men until the early 20th century when Gillette saw a market opportunity, go figure, and released the Gillette Milady Décolleté. It became the first safety razor marketed to women. 1 million were sold by 1917. Hair left? 0. There was no hair left. Danger? 3.5. Razor burn and cuts are no joke, and handling the razors is delicate, but definitely safer than its predecessor, which was the straight razor. The straight razor is known mostly these days as the weapon of choice for Sweeney Todd, and as a prop for looking threatening in period films. Pain. 0. This time. But I remember keenly the razor burn of my youth, and that made me extra cautious. Fuss. 4.5. Poor maintenance of the razor blade, including keeping it dry, stored safely, and disposed of safely, can significantly increase the potential pain and danger ratings. This older method of making shave foam just adds another layer of fuss. Additionally, this section was the first of all the hair to grow back, so you'd need to use it more often to maintain hairlessness. Cleanup. 2. Provided you remove the blade to prevent rusting, everything else was pretty simple. Rinse, dry, and put away. The chemical depilatory.
Alright, let's give this a go.
Chemical depilatories are a product that I think a lot of people don't realize goes back quite a long way. There is in fact a portion of the legend of the Queen of Sheba that includes a paste being applied in order to remove body hair. Chemical depilatories up until very recently in human history had extremely caustic chemicals, including but not limited to quicklime and arsenic. These products were very dangerous, so we're not going to use the old methods of this particular practice, we are going to use the modern equivalent. In the United States, commercial chemical depilatories were starting to become available in the late 19th century, early 20th century, and really took off after World War I. These products did not enjoy the benefit of regulation in any way, and therefore were just as dangerous as their historic counterparts. Hair left? 0.5. 1 or 2 stray hairs because of some slightly uneven application. Danger. 4. 3 words for you. Potential, chemical, burns. Pain. 1. A tiny tingle. Modern depilatory creams are obviously much better and safer, but even as a teenager, I remember a very not fun week after an unsuccessful application of depilatory cream, so this has the potential to be higher if poorly used. Fuss. 3.5. There is nothing that makes me feel like a bull in a china shop quite like having cream on me that might rub off on other things, and my ADHD does not play well with staying still. So the lack of ability to fidget and the particular need for uniform application to get all the hair off is fairly fussy to me. Cleanup. 3.5. If everything goes smoothly, cleanup is minimal, but if you're like me, you will accidentally get it on a nice towel, bath mat, or your other leg, and potentially not notice until it stains or starts to hurt. Sugar wax. Sugar waxing, it seems, has been around for several centuries, if not millennia, and seems to have originated in the Middle East. The recipe is relatively the same as it has always been: sugar, water, and a little bit of lemon juice, combined until it is a sticky syrup that cools to a wax-like substance. Hair left? 2. But I attribute this to user error in the preparation stage. Before I gave up regular hair removal, I used homemade sugar waxing for about 6 months, and it can be very effective. Danger? 3.5. As with resin waxing, the danger is mostly related to handling hot liquids, which can not only burn, but in this case, it is very hard to remove quickly when it does. If used in battle in its heated state, I personally think that this would constitute a war crime under the Hague and Geneva Conventions. Pain. 3.5. Honestly, it would have been lower if I hadn't overcooked it slightly. It was much closer to toffee than it should have been, and that meant that it wasn't coming off as easily and it was hardening faster. Fuss? 4. There is a reason I don't make candy, and that's because it is a touchy and fiddly process that is very easy to screw up. The front-end fuss of this process is enough to get me annoyed. Cleanup. 1. If you are near a sink while doing this, which I imagine you would be, then cleanup is ludicrously easy because the product is water-soluble and or compostable. Anything you got sticky can be rinsed with hot water and then washed normally. Resin wax.
Okay, this one is for all the marbles. So, let's go?
Similar to chemical depilatories, the process of using wax and resin to remove hair from legs is a process that goes back hundreds of years, but at-home commercial kits started becoming available after World War I through mail-order catalogs. Hair left? 0. Honestly, I was impressed by this.
I don't want to.
Danger. 3. As with sugar waxing, the danger is largely in the handling of hot liquids. However, I'm giving this an edge in the danger category because as a resin-based material, it is not water-soluble, and therefore even harder to remove in case of burns or misapplication.
Okay, I gotta do it. I'm gonna do it. Alright, big money, no whammies. Okay, yeah. Whew.
Pain? 3. I think there's a kind of gladiatorial adrenaline that kicks up when you're doing this process yourself. You find that you're psyching yourself up and getting those Gerard Butler vibes when you rip strips off your leg.
Son of a... Oh, God. Damn it.
But as with sugar waxing, the pain is short and sharp and unpleasant, but not unbearable by any means. Fuss. 3.5. The instructions specified where to place the wax on the plate of your microwave. It describes the consistency required in excruciating detail. On the one hand, the instructions made it reasonably easy to know if and how I'd made a mistake. However, the need for those instructions seems inherently fussy. Plus, the actual application does not go as smoothly as they seem to imagine. Cleanup? 4. To hell with this nonsense. Leftover wax has to be gathered to throw out, stringy bits get everywhere, the risk of getting it on towels or hair I didn't want removed was an ever-present stress, and I didn't know how I would have cleaned it up if that had happened. Before putting it away, the bowl has to cool completely and then just chill out in whatever space you've got for it. They tell you to take out the wooden spatula before cooling it off, but cleaning it off in order to do that was also a pain, and then I just have this tub and wooden spatula forever, I guess? I'll probably use it up eventually. I do still occasionally remove my leg hair. I feel like tweezers is one of those things that I do not have to give a background history for. They are tweezers. Hair left? 3.5. It's whatever was left when I got bored. Danger? 2. This would be 0, except this was the only process of the whole day where I drew blood. A few follicles weren't plucked as nicely as they would have liked and objected. And once or twice my desire to go fast meant that I pinched skin instead of hairs. Pain. 2.5. This might be a bit prejudiced because I'm thinking about it in the context of plucking hair off of the face, which is much worse. But it's not nothing. Fuss. 3. Virtually none. But it took a long time. Cleanup. 0.5. Sweep the discarded hairs. That's literally it. The pumice stone. I kept seeing pumice stones referred to as being used by ancient Egyptians, but I could not find any sources for that information. The earliest textual evidence that I could find for pumice stone as a depilatory practice was Samuel Pepys. In his diary, he refers to it as a method that was used by Roman legionnaires, but that is all the information that I could find. All of that said, I have absolutely no idea where anybody got this information. If it is true, I'd love to see a source on it, but in the meantime, take all of these practices and claims with a grain of salt. Hair left? 5. It did remove some hair, but depressingly little. Danger. 1. I mean, if the pumice stone is clean, you're probably fine. You are in charge at all times of how hard you're buffing your skin. Pain. 5. Ow. Okay, all things in perspective. I have spent a collective 31 hours getting tattoos in my life. I have been hospitalized for acute pain. This is not a scale of pain in life. It is a scale of pain related to hair removal, and frankly, ow. This wasn't the sharp, quick pain of plucking or waxing. This was like applying razor burn to yourself in slow motion. I was rubbing an abrasive rock on my leg. I would gladly get a small tattoo every week for the rest of my life than deal with that garbage. Fuss. 3. The process itself is pretty fuss-free, but it took a long time to get no result. So it's ineffectually fussy. Cleanup. 1. It's a rock. Don't keep it in the shower, it will collect bacteria. You're done. The Epilady.
My legs are worth $1 million to me. I'm a model, so I use Epilady.
The Epilady was originally released in 1986 and consisted of a coil attached to a motor. The motor would cause the coil to spin and therefore pluck hairs as it went from a flexed to a relaxed position. I could not find an unused version of that particular product, and so I opted for the tweezing variety, which came out a few years later. This involves a series of rotating discs that come together and apart on a motor that pinches the hair and pulls it out as it goes, much in the style of tweezers. By the way, the Wikipedia page for the Epilady Epilator, which is what it's called, is harrowing.
Gotta love a hair removal device that has a legal disclaimer and a 7-page operating manual, including the need to know geometry. Okay, here goes.
Hair left? 0. It took a little bit longer than shaving, but it did manage to get all of the hairs. Danger. 3. I'm a naturally nervous person about any topically applied mechanical device, and the user manual would suggest that there are many risks. But based on my experience, I'm pretty convinced that these are similar risks as when user manuals warn you against ironing clothes while wearing them. Pain? 3. It's not painless, as the advertisements would have you believe, but having imagined it as akin to using tweezers, it was much gentler than I imagined, and I suspect it would be better if I wasn't so nervous when using it. Fuss. 2.5. This is very much a plug-and-play situation, but anything that is accompanied by a tiny cleaning brush that you will own far longer than the appliance it came with will never be a truly low-maintenance device for me. Cleanup. 1.5. This method produces a tiny hair tornado which sticks with static to the device. Easy to clean, but I found it a little off-putting. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Thank you especially to my Patreon patrons who keep this channel running and are rock stars. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon.